A starving boy with nothing to his name notices something everyone else overlooks: poison in a wealthy man's dinner. What happens next transforms not just one life, but two, in a way no one could have imagined. Marcus, a 12-year-old boy with dark skin and piercing eyes, moved silently through the crowded streets of Chicago. His clothes hung loose and ragged, and his sneakers were held together with tape. Each step was deliberate, every glance sharp. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, but this feeling was nothing new. Survival meant thinking fast and noticing things others missed. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. By the way, what city are you watching us from? Write it in the comments, we're curious. He lived with his family in a crumbling, abandoned building. The roof leaked, and the walls carried the stench of neglect. His father, unemployed, did what he could to patch the place up. His mother spent her days scavenging for supplies while keeping an eye on Marcus's younger siblings. Marcus, the eldest, took it upon himself to venture out daily in search of food or money. On this particular day, the sun was setting, casting long shadows on the bustling streets. Marcus's sharp eyes scanned every corner, every discarded wrapper, every loose coin someone might have dropped. His stomach growled, urging him to find something soon. Passing by restaurant dumpsters was a gamble. Sometimes there was food, but often, only rotting waste. As the lights of a high-end restaurant caught his attention, Marcus stopped. Through the glass, he saw neatly dressed patrons enjoying extravagant meals. The sight stirred a mix of envy and hope. Occasionally, diners dropped a morsel of food, or kitchen staff tossed out leftovers. He decided to linger, hoping for a scrap to ease his hunger. Unnoticed, he stood by the window, observing. Wealthy men and women laughed and talked, oblivious to the world outside. For Marcus, it was a glimpse into a life he couldn't imagine, but it wasn't just the food that drew his attention. It was their safety, their comfort, and the absence of the constant worry that ruled his life. As he studied the scene, something unusual caught his eye. A young woman, dressed in elegant clothes, sitting next to an older man surrounded by bodyguards, was acting strangely. Her hands moved with purpose, slipping something into the man's food while she glanced around nervously. Marcus froze. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just a wealthy couple having dinner. Marcus's instincts told him something dangerous was happening. Marcus focused intently on the table where the older man and his young wife sat. The man appeared relaxed, occasionally laughing with his wife, unaware of her furtive actions. Marcus watched her carefully as she reached into her handbag and pulled out a small packet. She opened it discreetly and sprinkled its contents into the man's soup while he glanced away. His mind raced. He didn't know what she had added to the food, but her behavior was unmistakably suspicious. The woman's quick glances and the subtle way she stirred the soup sent alarm bells ringing. Marcus knew he had no time to waste. The boy's heart pounded as he approached the restaurant entrance. The polished glass doors, flanked by well-dressed greeters, made him hesitate for a moment. He looked down at his torn clothes and dirty hands, knowing he didn't belong in a place like this. But the man's life might be in danger, and Marcus couldn't just walk away. He darted inside, heading straight for the table. Before he could reach the man, two members of the security team intercepted him. Their firm grip stopped him in his tracks, and one of them growled, "What do you think you're doing here?" Marcus struggled, shouting, "She put something in his food. She poisoned it." His voice carried through the restaurant, drawing the attention of diners. The woman, visibly startled, shot Marcus a look of disdain and quickly recovered her composure. "That's ridiculous," she said, her voice dripping with indignation. "He's just a filthy street kid looking for trouble." The older man raised his hand, signaling his security to release Marcus. He turned to the boy with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. "What did you say?" he asked calmly. "She put something in your food," Marcus repeated, his voice trembling but resolute. The woman gasped dramatically. "This is absurd. Look at him. He's lying just to get attention. Tension filled the room as the diners murmured, unsure what to believe. The restaurant manager appeared, flustered by the commotion, and suggested calling the police to resolve the matter. The older man, still unsure of what to make of the situation, decided to have his food taken for testing. The woman protested, her voice rising in frustration, but the man remained firm. "If the boy is lying, we'll know soon enough," he said. As the police arrived to collect the food for analysis, Marcus waited nervously, his eyes darting between the man and his wife. The truth, he knew, would soon come out. The restaurant buzzed with tension as police officers took control of the scene. Diners whispered amongst themselves, their eyes fixed on the man, his wife, and the disheveled boy standing awkwardly nearby. The poisoned meal was sealed in a bag and rushed to the forensic lab, leaving everyone to wait in uneasy anticipation. The woman's composure began to crack. Her calm demeanor was replaced by visible frustration, and she snapped at her husband. "You're actually entertaining this nonsense. He's just a dirty little liar," she hissed. Her insistence only made her seem more suspicious to those watching. Marcus stood silently, clutching his shirt as he stared at the ground. He'd done all he could. Whether they believed him or not, he knew the truth was out of his hands now. An hour passed before the officers returned, holding a report in their hands. They approached the table, their faces grim. The lead officer spoke quietly to the older man, but his words carried through the hushed restaurant. The analysis confirmed it. The soup contained a lethal dose of poison. The room erupted into gasps and whispers. The older man turned to his wife, his face a mixture of shock and betrayal. She stumbled over her words, frantically trying to explain, but it was clear she had no credible excuse. You did this?" the man asked, his voice trembling. The woman's protests grew desperate, but the officers moved in swiftly, placing her in handcuffs. She shouted and flailed, accusing everyone of conspiring against her, but the evidence spoke louder than her words. As the police led her away, the older man slumped into his chair, visibly shaken. His life had been saved, but the revelation of his wife's betrayal cut deeper than he could have imagined. The diners, previously frozen in shock, erupted into quiet applause for Marcus. The boy stood still, unsure how to respond. He had only acted on what he saw, but his sharp instincts had exposed a deadly plan. The older man gestured for Marcus to come closer. "You saved my life," he said, his voice heavy with gratitude. For the first time that night, Marcus felt a flicker of hope. The commotion settled, leaving the restaurant quieter than it had been all night. The wealthy man, still shaken but alive, motioned for Marcus to sit at his table. The boy hesitated, unsure if he belonged there among the pristine white tablecloths and crystal glasses, but the man insisted with a kind smile. "Bring this boy whatever he wants," the man told the waiter, his voice steady but weary. Plates of warm food soon arrived, filling the table with the scent of dishes Marcus had never dreamed of tasting. The boy ate cautiously at first, unsure of the attention, but hunger quickly won. As Marcus ate, the man began to speak. He introduced himself as Mr. Leonard Blackwood, a retired businessman who had spent his life building an empire. "You saved me tonight," he said, his tone earnest. "Without you, I wouldn't be here." When Leonard asked how he could repay him, Marcus paused, unsure what to say. He looked down at the food in front of him and thought of the others waiting for him back at the abandoned building they called home. Could I take some food back to my family?" Marcus finally asked, his voice quiet but firm. Leonard's expression softened. "Of course," he replied. He ordered his staff to pack enough meals for Marcus's family and instructed his security team to escort the boy safely to his home. As they left the restaurant, Marcus led the guards through winding streets and alleys until they reached a crumbling building where his family waited. Leonard's team delivered the food, and Marcus's siblings and mother erupted with joy, tearing into the packages with laughter and tears. Watching the scene unfold, Leonard was struck by the harsh reality of the boy's life. It wasn't just gratitude that stirred in him, it was a sense of responsibility. He had the means to help, and this child had risked everything to save him. That night, as Marcus's family ate their fill for the first time in months, Leonard left with a plan. The boy had given him back his life, and now he would find a way to change Marcus's forever. A week later, a black car pulled up outside the abandoned building where Marcus and his family lived. Marcus was startled to see Leonard step out, flanked by his security team. The boy's mother, nervous but polite, invited him inside. Leonard didn't waste time with formalities. He spoke directly to Marcus's family, explaining how their son had saved his life and how deeply he admired Marcus's courage. Then he made his announcement: he had purchased a modest but fully furnished house for them in a safer neighborhood. The family was stunned into silence. Marcus's mother, overwhelmed, began to cry, thanking Leonard repeatedly. Leonard assured her it was the least he could do. He personally escorted them to their new home that same day. The house was small but beautiful, clean, secure, and filled with everything the family needed. Marcus and his siblings ran through the rooms, wide-eyed at the space and comfort they had never known. As they settled in, Leonard spoke to Marcus privately. He promised to fund the boy's education, offering him a chance at a better future. "You deserve every opportunity," he said, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder. For Marcus, it was a turning point. No longer would he scour the streets for scraps or live in fear of what tomorrow might bring. Instead, he began to dream about what he could become: a doctor, a lawyer, or even someone who would one day help others as Leonard had helped him. The story didn't end with the new house. Leonard became a mentor to Marcus, visiting regularly and ensuring the family had what they needed. Marcus thrived in school, excelling in his studies and inspiring others with his determination. The boy who once wandered the streets searching for food had been given a second chance, a chance to break the cycle of poverty and create a brighter future. And it all began with a moment of bravery, a warning shouted in a restaurant that changed two lives forever.